Language, Chapter 4, Lesson 7, about adjectives that compare. And we know that adjectives are our describing words that tell, what something looks like, sounds like, feels like, how many there are. Well, we can also use adjectives to compare two things, or two people, or two places. And when I use them that way, there's some rules that I follow depending on if it's only two things that I'm comparing or if it's a large group of things that I'm comparing. So if you look at page 92, it says adjectives can be used to make comparisons. To compare two people, places, or things, ER may be added to an adjective. So for example, if I was comparing the height of two people, I would say he is taller than she is. So I added that ER to the end of tall because I'm comparing the height of the two of them. But it says to compare three or more people, places, or things, EST may be added to the end of an adjective. So if I wanted to compare the height of the whole class, I would say he is the tallest in the class. And then I added EST onto the end of tall because I was comparing that whole group. And so if you look at the examples on this page here, it says an adjective that you could use is cold, and they show that in red there. If I was comparing two things there, I could say December is colder than November. I'm comparing the month of December to November. Or I could compare all of the months, and it's saying January is the coldest month of all. So our choices A, B, C here says find the sentence with an adjective that compares. So I'm looking at those choices and trying to see, okay, which one of these is comparing two or more things here. And the choice B would be the correct one. You're comparing two explorers, Christopher Columbus and Ponce de Leon, and it says Columbus was braver than Ponce de Leon. And so braver there would be our adjective that's comparing the two. And when I am forming these adjectives that compare, there's a couple rules to follow, and they're very similar to the rules that we had when we were making our nouns plural. So if we look at the bottom of 92 here, it says here are some spelling rules for adding ER and EST. It says the first one is if the adjective ends in E, you drop the E and add the ending. So whether it's ER, EST, and that's something that, I think we know, because if it was safe and you were trying to make it safer, there wouldn't be two E's in there. And so it already has an E, so you can just put the R on the end or put the ST on the end. Because to spell it like this, we know doesn't look right. So I've already got an E there. I don't need to add another one. If the adjective ends in Y, following a consonant, so a consonant then Y, you change the Y to I and then add the ending. So that's again similar to our nouns. So here you've got sunny, and N is a consonant right before the Y. So if you were comparing two things and saying one day was sunnier than the other, or today is the sunniest day of the week, you change that Y to I and then add your ER or EST. And then if the adjective ends in a single consonant following a single vowel, double the consonant and add the ending. So here you've got big. It's a consonant that follows a vowel. So if you were comparing two things, you could say this one is bigger than that one. You would double that G in the middle. Or this is the biggest one in the box. You still double the G before you put EST on the end. So let's go and look at some exercise examples here. Let's see if I can make it big enough so I can write on here. Okay, So here we've just got a chart where you are to write, if you were comparing two things using that adjective, what would that look like, or three or more things. And so we just have to complete the chart following those rules, adding ER or EST on the end, and then using the spelling rules as well. So if I was comparing only two things, one thing would be taller than the other. You know what, it might be easier for me just to talk through this instead of writing on it. So two things would be taller, and you would just add ER to the end. If you're comparing more than one or more than two things, something would be the tallest, and all you have to do is add EST to the end for as far as spelling there. Number two, you've got scary, and that does end in a Y that follows a consonant. So for this movie was scarier than that one, you would have to change the Y to I and then add ER for scarier. Or this is the scariest movie I've ever seen. Same thing, change the Y to I, then add your EST. Number three, wide. This street is wider than that one. This ends in an E already, so for wider, you would just add the R. Or this one is the widest. You would just add the ST because it's already got your E there for you. Number four is great. If I was comparing two things, like we do in math, greater than or less than, you just add ER to the end for greater. Or if you're ordering things from greatest to least, you just add EST on to the end of great for greatest. Number five, cute. If you were comparing two things and you say, I think this dog is cuter than that one, it's already got an E on the end for you, so you would just add the R. Or this is the cutest one of all. Again, it already has the E, so you would just add the ST on the end for cutest. Number six, hot. If I was comparing temperature, today is hotter than yesterday. This is one of the situations where you would double that consonant. So for hotter, it would be HOTTER. And then today was the hottest day of the week. Same thing, you would double the T, HOTTEST. Number seven, dusty. This room is dustier than the other. You've got a consonant followed by a Y, so you would change the Y to I and then add ER for dustier. And this is the dustiest room in the house. Same thing, change the Y to I and then add EST for dustiest. Number nine, fat. If you were comparing two things, like this cat is fatter than the other one, you would double that T, FATTER. Or my cat is the fattest of all, still double the T, FATTEST. Oops. Looking at exercise 2 now. It says, find the adjective that compares in each sentence. So now, we talked about some up in exercise 1. Now we're looking in sentences to find them. So for number 1, exploration is one of the oldest human activities. And for our biggest clues, we're looking at for words that end in ER or EST. So number 1, you've got oldest as your adjective that compares. Number 2, early explorers of the North and South Poles may have been the bravest explorers of all. Again, it's an EST one, bravest. Number 3, their voyages were harder than those of other explorers. Here we've got an ER one, harder. Number 4, the weather is harsher at the poles than in other places. Another ER one, harsher. Number 5, Robert Peary was one of the earliest explorers of the poles. This one's an EST one, earliest. And number 6, Roald Amundsen was luckier than Robert Scott because he reached the South Pole first. In this one, you're comparing those two men using luckier. So now, in exercise 3, they're giving you situations where you have to choose which one's the correct one to use in parentheses. And so you'll have to read the sentence to see, am I comparing two things or more than two, to help you decide. So for number 1, Antarctica is blank than Australia. Here you're just comparing those two continents, so you would use larger. Number 2, its area is blank than that of the United States. Again, just comparing Antarctica to the United States now. So only 2, so it would be smaller. Number 3, it is the blank of all continents. Now you're comparing all continents, so you would want to use windiest. Number 4, Antarctica is blank than North America. So now you're just comparing those two continents, so you would use colder. And number 5, it is also blank than Africa. Again, still just comparing two, so it would be drier. Okay, so looking at the workbook, page 62 here for a minute. In the first section, it's just asking you to find and underline the adjective that is comparing in each sentence. So just like exercise 2, find and underline it, and you're looking for those ER or EST words. The second part is just like exercise 1, where it gives you the adjective to start with, and you have to finish the chart about what it would look like if you're comparing two things versus 3 or more things. And so you have to follow those spelling rules. Do I need to change the Y to I? Do I need to double the consonant? So make sure you're paying attention to those, and you can look back to page 92 if you need to remind yourself. Then in the bottom, they give you an adjective to use, and it says add ER or EST to each adjective and then use it in a sentence. So you can choose whether you want to say add ER and be comparing two things, or EST and be comparing more than two things. It just has to make sense in your sentence. And don't forget your capital letters and your periods.